Friends, we need not send to England for English ale, or to Scotland or Ireland for Scotch or Irish whiskey. It will distill at our very doors, in the quality of any national liquor we may call for. Such were the words of the Sacramento Daily Union in July of 1858. Truly, what the Sacramento Valley's indigenous population had known for millennia had become more than apparent to Anglo-European settlers and gold miners. To plant a seed, nearly any seed, meant near instant growth thanks to the valley's lush alluvial soil. The primary beneficiaries were those with a taste for that irrepressible tonic, beer. Stores of barley, hops, and wheat were right at home in Sacramento. By 1860, Sacramento County was the state's leader in barley production at 514,000 bushels a year, while the area now occupied by California State University Sacramento, and originally known as Brighton, was by mid-century home to California's most extensive hops fields. As soon as the area's most notable European appeared, J.A. Sutter, brewing would commence. Heinrich Lienhardt, an early employee of Sutter's, passed on his boss's penchant for drinking by stating the following: "I had no idea he drank as much as he did. Soon I had the opportunity to become better acquainted with his habits, and it was during my second week at the fort as I saw him walking with an unsteady, swaying motion which left no doubt to his condition. I learned from acquaintances who had known Sutter for a longer time and more intimately than I that he was often intoxicated." Sutter's Brauerei and Brennery operation lasted from 1844 to 1846, with what were likely 4 distilleries measuring 60 feet by 25 feet, not to mention the fort had its own brewing capacity. Peter Cadell, a dairyman by trade, opened the Galena Brewery in the spring of 1849. It was Sacramento's first large-scale brewery and sat not 100 yards away from Sutter's venerable fort. The Galena was purchased in 1854 by Philip Schelt and renamed the Sacramento Brewery. Schelt's operation would be a brewing fixture for the next 30 years and, at its height, distribute to over 30 saloons around the River City. While the Galena produced mostly ales, the advent of the gold rush and resulting influx of continental Europeans brought on the newness of the lager beer, a German-style drink that required longer fermentation than ales and at a cooler temperature. The beer's first producer was the Phoenix Brewery on 28th and M Streets, established by the most odd Louis Kesselberg, a Prussian immigrant who came to California with the doomed Donner Party. Although hard to prove, it was widely believed that the erratic Kesselberg, we'll call him the demon brewer of M Street, cannibalized fellow travelers during the group's fight for survival. Nonetheless, the lager flourished, and not just in Sacramento. So much of the lager's value resided in its cool, refreshing taste, a distinct difference from the heavier ale which could be comfortably consumed at room temperature. When the city of St. Louis ran out of lager in the fall of 1854, the city's paper ran the headline, "Horrible!" According to the same article, 6 months previous, the city had consumed an amazing 18 million glasses of lager. In the case of Sacramento, the lager beer's draw was equally phenomenal. The Phoenix marketed its wares to the River City in 1854 by a brew-dispensing beer wagon, said the Democratic Journal. A new beer wagon intended for the brewery at the fort was paraded through the principal streets about 10 o'clock last night. Drawn by about 50 men and followed by a thirsty crowd, a pole was upreared from the center bearing an American ensign stiffened in the breeze, and a band of music occupied the broad surface of the truck. There was probably a noisy time at the irrigation that was contemplated. Sacramento's fixation on the new beer was just as keen as St. Louis's, especially during the summer months, during which time many lager retailers moved many of their establishments underground in an effort to keep their golden elixir cold. They could also rely on the construction of various ice houses throughout the city, including the Sitka Ice House on Front and I Streets with its double-thick charcoal-lined walls. In addition to the Phoenix and Sacramento, the breweries kept coming. The Columbus at 16th and K, the Ohio Brewery at 6th and F, and the Tiger Brewery at 31st and K all followed strong. The Columbus was owned by brothers Elias and Christian Gruller, both of Baden-Württemberg, Germany. By 1858, it was producing 1,200 gallons of beer per week. Their primary distribution point was the Gruller Saloon on 6th between J and K Streets. The Tiger, which was on its feet by 1857, ventured away from the lager craze and reintroduced English and cream ales, even porter, which found distribution at Roblin's Exchange at 10th and K Streets. In time, the brewery would change its name to the English Brewery because of its rededication to ales of Albion. Does history live in the context of beer or vice versa? During the Christmas season of 1861-62, an event took place that pitted the Sutterville Brewery of Martin Arentz against the United States Army, which was billeted at Camp Union, located where today's Sacramento Zoo now rests. With not more than a mile of territory separating the brewery and camp, a group of 12 Union soldiers made their way to Sutterville to imbibe the wares. Once rebuffed by the brewers, the soldiers started to break things. Only after Arentz fired several shots at the attackers in blue did the camp finally send a detachment to break things up. While the presence of breweries in early Sacramento likely primed the wheels of saloon violence and found opposition from several temperance groups, one could also argue that they brought the early city citizens together and helped deflect the stresses of fire, flood, and disease.